Alright guys, what is up? Swim here, and today we're going to be breaking down a deck for you guys. So this is an accidental cue. I meant to click on the edit button. This is my, effectively like aggro sort of burn deck. It used to be like a bit heavier of a burn deck with, you know, stuff like Decimate, which was the original version by All New Bagels and Gummy. But effectively, I think that, you know, after playing around a lot with this kind of concept, different forms, we've actually spent the last 2 days playing with some like very, very strange things. We did some things with like Rummage, we did like, you know, Draven, a little bit more into the discard package, a little bit less into the discard, different forms of, you know, ways of triggering Disciple. We had like transfusions, we were even running Vlad at one point. And this is kind of the version we arrived on, so this is, you know, aggro burn, and effectively the way this deck plays is really, really, really aggressive. As you can see, our highest mana cost is Jinx. So, just gonna let you guys know real quick, if you want to check out the updated version of the link with the import link, you can find that in the pinned comments. That's also going to have an updated version of the list. If I make any changes to the list, you'll see them there and you won't see them here. So, to break down the card choices real quick, effectively, the reason why we're not running the kind of standard Draven discard package, a lot of the typical discard cards, you know, like Rummage, like Flame Chompers, more Jury Rigs, this version's running one Jury Rig, is effectively that I find that combination, it's pretty powerful and it's solid, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that deck, that's also a good deck. But I find it to be like a little bit unreliable. As powerful as it is, it can definitely have some pretty bad draws that can make it clunk out, whereas this deck is a little bit more reliable. And the trade-off is, of course, you know, it's less super powerful when it draws well, right? So basically the idea behind this is flood the board with just early aggressive units and top out with Jinx. Basically, when you have such a cheap low mana curve, your Jinx is going to be leveling up on like turn 5 or 6 whenever you're attacking with or without discard, right? You don't need the other discard tools to enable it. So why Teemo then? Well, Teemo is basically just an aggro tool, right? It's very, very similar to Precious Pet, where basically, you know, Pet is a 2-1 with Fearsome. Teemo's got Elusive. He's dealing on average, I think it's probably slightly less than 2 damage on average. It's like, depends how you calculate it, depends how long you're thinking games are going, but it ends up being like 1.8, 1.9 damage. Usually it's like a puff cap will happen. And that means that, yeah, you're getting like a tiny bit less damage, but you've got the Elusive, which is a little bit more valuable than Fearsome. So think of Teemo just kind of like another Precious Pet. And basically, you're just going to be going in very early, you're swarming the board wide with, you know, cards like House Spider, and buffing them up with cards like Brothers Bonds and Arena Battlecasters. Pretty typical aggro stuff. One very cute thing, though, is that the Used Cask Salesman is, I think this is a really, really, really fantastic aggro card. And Caustic Cask is mostly you're using this to block, like you use this when you're on defense, and it'll deal 2 free damage to the opponent's face. But on top of that, you know, sometimes you can attack with it and Battlecaster or with Brothers Bond, right? There are spots where you can get good value in by doing that. Okay, so that's the basics of the deck. You know, that's kind of all you need to know. Honestly, we can get into some games now. This isn't a super complicated deck to talk about. It's pretty simple. It will take some nuance to play in several matchups, but for the most part, this is going to be a straightforward aggro rush deck, okay? All right, we're going to go ahead and get into our game here. This is going to be a Vlad deck. All right. So, Infinite Patrons is basically, we've hit him several times before. He's playing like a kind of like pretty typical Vlad like aggro combo style. It's not like super mid-rangey. Okay, so we're going to be attacking on evens. Always make sure before you're even thinking about the mulligan that you see, you know, which turn you're attacking on. And I think I actually like keeping Jinx under these circumstances, because this deck right now tends to be able to play her very, very, very quickly. I'm not actually 100% about keeping Jinx on turn 1, since she's a fairly recent addition, but every time I've done so, I felt pretty good about it. So we can go ahead and open with Legion Rearguard, I think is a good turn 1 play. When in doubt, Legion Rearguard is going to be the best turn 1 play out of all your 1-drops. Saboteur is probably better in the mirror, and Teemo, there's not really a matchup where you want to play Teemo first of all. So we want to make sure we're just getting as much early aggression as possible. And of course, it's going to be Boom Crew Rookie here, because, you know, Teemo doesn't curve out mana-wise, and Battlecaster doesn't have wide enough of a board yet. So we can go ahead and solo attack with the Legion Rearguard, I think. No real reason to attack with Boom Crew Rookie yet. Crimson Disciple actually makes that very scary, and here's a Elixir of Iron, right? So Elixir of Iron is a pretty good answer to this attack. Basically keeps his unit alive, deals a little bit of poke damage to us. And we're mostly just trying to set up the Brothers Bond on the Teemo and the Boom Crew for, you know, next big attack. Got a nice defensive play on Salesman. That's going to do pretty well.
In the War Mother's name.
That's the really nice thing about Salesman. Basically, when you play him on defense, you get just a pretty crazy amount of value. In this case, it doesn't really matter too much, but effectively you shut down their attacks in a pretty big way, and you deal direct damage to face, right? So, like, check out this situation. He's got, you know, 3 units, and he can't really take an attack because we have 2 temporary blockers that are just giving free value. So we've stopped his entire attack, and we've dealt 2 face damage as well. Which, you know, in this matchup, he doesn't really mind that we're damaging ourselves, but in a normal matchup, we're definitely going to gain a bit of a benefit with. So, I'm ready to start out on an attack with, like, Brothers Bond here. It's going to be somewhat telegraphed. There is a Bull Elnuck. He's added Bull Elnuck to the Vlad deck. I actually quite like that. The Elnuck package does pretty good things for that deck, honestly. So Elnucks will definitely stabilize this spot. He's going to mostly just be sending this into the Boom Crew Rookie, almost certainly. We can take something like a full attack. We actually don't really have bad attacks if we do a Battlecaster attack either. I think in this case, because Brothers Bonds will only be used on Teemo for value, like he'll block the Rookie with the Bull Elnuck, right? And then both of these attacks, Brothers Bond won't do anything with, so it'll only be useful on Teemo. And because of that, I think it's actually better to do the Battlecaster play here instead. He doesn't have really any exceptional trades except for, of course, the Bull Elnuck. And both the Sabotage and the Undermine are going to be dealing a total of 3 damage. So the Battlecaster will make this attack quite a bit more spooky. And again, none of his blocks are super amazing, you know. I mean, he can kill the Rookie, and his Elnuck will get value wherever it goes, but everything else is a 1-for-1 trade, plus a bit of damage on my end. We'll likely get a pretty good, you know, Brothers Bond on Teemo, potentially next turn. Yep. We've got the Teemo here, doing a little bit of chip. He's not really going to be getting too much value. Hopefully we get 1 Mushroom. We're pretty happy if we get 1, honestly. It's like average. But the scare card he could have here is Troop of Elnucks on 5. Troop of Elnucks is a pretty good card at stabilizing versus aggro, unless we have really, really good early aggression. And this is pretty average here. He's got the Curator instead. To be a bit more mana efficient, I'll play Jinx here. I think this is kind of necessary because if we play House Spider, we would have to send too much mana into Brothers Bonds, and I think that's probably not worth it. He'll take an attack here, and this looks fine to me. Okay, seems good. Okay, so we're looking to get the level up flip on Jinx on this attack. And we've got good Brothers Bond options there. We can take it on defense as well, but I think I like basically making sure we're getting good value out of it on offense. So we can go ahead and swing with everything, I think, here. I don't see any punish to a full swing. Now, he is a Vlad deck, so they're going to have a lot of tricks that they can use, but the Battlecaster means that the Jinx is unblockable here by pretty much everything, and Brothers Bond is going to be a pretty good, you know, card to threaten the rest, right? So he's going to go ahead and block like that. Now we've got 7 going through. Bond represents the 4. That's going to push it to, you know, 11. Now the question is, do we want to go very aggressive with that Brothers Bond, or are we going to want to, you know, swing these combat exchanges instead? I think that right now, we're probably going to want to make sure we stay alive 1 extra turn. So I would really recommend thinking of Runeterra in terms of clock. And I'm going to make a video about this because this is really, really important. And I think that not a lot of people are thinking in these terms. But it's just about like turns to kill, right? So like this 7 damage, I mean, we could deal a bit more, but we're going to kill him in 2 turns, right? Regardless. So because of that, we want to play defensive, because no matter what we do, even if we try to accelerate with Brothers Bond, it's not going to be necessarily enough, right? Either we're winning with Rocket or we're not, right? Because this is enough to get us into Rocket range. So our clock is going to be the same no matter what here, right? So there's no difference there, which means the Brothers Bond is going to help us play defensive, make sure we're surviving the one extra turn we need. I guess he needs to draw a Mushroom for Rocket to be a kill. Or we need to draw into one of our other things, but it's pretty much a given. Like, when you're in top deck mode with Jinx, because you have a lot of, like, 1 damage effects in the deck, you're usually going to be able to find something that will end up dealing 1 damage in one way or another. He's taking a very preemptive double might on Vlad. That's pretty funny. So the block with Jinx is fine. We'll take the Get Excited on the Vlad in this case. He needs, what, Take Heart here? Yeah, I mean, Take Heart can make him pretty good. There's not really a lot we can do about Take Heart as his final card. That would be really, really huge. That would be quite the perfect hands. Alright, we're good. So yeah, basically, this is a really, really straightforward deck. I hope we actually find a mirror for the next game, because I think there's actually a lot to talk about in terms of the mirror matchup. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into the second game here. Let's go ahead and look at the hand. So we're attacking on evens. The most important thing is we don't have a 1-drop in this hand already, and you're really going to want to play for one. Our opponent's Freljord Shadow Isles, which is probably going to be the aggro version, like the fearsome version that just uses like Icevale Archer and Harsh Winds to kind of push their fearsome in a little bit harder. So in this case, use Cask Salesman. You know, the Casks aren't going to be good blockers against fearsomes, and I think I'll kick the Disciple as well. She's a solid 2-drop, but we want to kick deep to try to get more 1s. And this is going to be a much better hand. We've got a couple of 1s, a 2, as well as Jinx for the reliable top end. So I think opening with Teemo is going to be fine here. Might be a little bit less value than Precious Pet in general. So this is going to be better for, you know, the case where he's got like maybe Vile Feast on 2. The sequencing doesn't really end up mattering too much, but because we're not like attacking super aggressively, Teemo ends up being fine here. Because you want to get the mushrooms in a little bit early if possible. Okay, and this gives us pretty good attacks here. I think we can go ahead and take this attack very easily. We don't want to attack with the 1-1. He knows there's no real threat, so he gets a free block. Doesn't want to do that at all. He could have like Brittle Steel or something. Wow, he's just gonna take that block. Sure, looks really great for me. Teemo's gonna go ahead and put a few mushrooms in the deck. And that's a Skitter I don't mind at all either. Nice. Okay, so we're gonna have a pretty strong open attack as well. We're gonna go ahead and let this through, of course. We can't block that, but even if we could, we wouldn't. We've got a great attack. We're gonna have Brothers Bond on something for sure. Probably gonna be Teemo plus something else. I think this is a pretty fantastic attack. It's hard for him not to take some kind of block here. You really want to kill the Battlecaster, so I'm confident of like locking this attack in and him reacting in some way here, right? It's an interesting block. Wow. See, I don't know what that would mean. That's very, very strange. Because you would, I think you're always hitting a lot more value from blocking the Battlecaster. Maybe he's trying to go extremely aggro. I mean, I get a very valuable Brothers Bond here. The question is, do I go for a second one? A second one doesn't get punished by too much here, actually. Maybe like a Vile Feast. The thing is, Withering Wail is going to get value no matter what. I'll play around Vile Feast. So I'll go ahead and double buff the caster, and I'll buff this spider instead of Teemo to make sure he doesn't get too much Vile Feast value if he has something. If he's got Withering Wail, then my Brother's Bond is going to be sucky on this board no matter what, so that's fine. And it's really hard for him to take this block with Wail as well. So there's the Grasp, but that's fine. That's why we partially split up our board as much, and now we've got him down to 12 with some nice permanent buffs on our units. Grasp ends up being kind of efficient there, but a bit of a slow card. And at this point, mostly we're just looking to have Jinx, make sure Jinx is going to be leveled up for this attack. So I don't really mind that, Elise. Let's go ahead and play the Saboteur here first. So the thing about this is, if he's attacking with the Elise, I'm getting a pretty valuable block with this Spider. There's one problem with this block, is that it enables his Black Spear, and I really, really can't afford to let Jinx die. It's just not a good idea. You don't want to let Jinx die. So I will take this block, and if he taps out his mana for a Black Spear, then I'll play Jinx. But if not, I'll just send into spell mana, and I'll be pretty happy doing that. Usually, with a hand the way he's playing, he'll Black Spear the Teemo here. Okay. And by which I mean, when I say like the way he's playing as if he has a weird spell-heavy hand. There's like a way opponents are playing, like he's playing strange, right? He's not playing his like early units as much, so he's gonna be on hands like Harsh Winds, Glimpse Beyond, Black Spear, that kind of thing. So now we're looking to, of course, like level up the Jinx for value. We can go ahead and stick in this this open attack here. Is gonna look very well. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and threaten the Jinx. Of course, we've got the level up on her, which is going to allow her to survive the Grasp, and suddenly he needs Vile Feast to feel very good about this at all. Now, he could easily be on Vile Feast here. So we've gone ahead and set him down to, yeah, after the Grasp goes through, down to 6. And our Jinx is going to be drawing out, ooh, second Black Spear, there it is. So we're going to be trying to get this last points of 6 damage. It's going to be a little bit tricky with the Jinx down. Like a second Jinx is going to be pretty big. He does have like a bit of a spot that could be good to stabilize this board. And Rekindler is going to be pretty big as well. All right, I think that might have just done it. Him having like the double Black Spear to finish off the Jinx does look like we won't have a way to close this game out. Yep, I think that's it. I mean, unless we can top deck the Jinx, that's gonna be fine. Alright, yeah, it looks like this game's over. That's fine. The deck still did basically what it was trying to do. If he has like slightly less good of a hand for, that final position, we're in a really great spot and we'd be able to finish the game just like you normally would with Jinx, but that's fine.
Where's my axe?
At the end of the day, I'm not gonna like cherry pick these games so it's like only me getting wins. At the very least, I want to make sure that I'm able to show off the deck doing what it wants to do, but of course, you're not gonna be able to win them all. Alright, so that is the deck. Basically, you're going to be able to get a lot of early aggression swarm value and try to blow out the opponent before they can come online in a big way. So that's the deck. Basically, you're just burning the opponent very down. It's a great deck for climbing ladder because, obviously there's this thing in card games where aggro tends to have a slightly lower win rate than control. Not necessarily always, but as a rule of thumb, it tends to be a bit more counterable when you're like on the climb up. And that's fine because when you have much faster games, when your games are taking like, 4 minutes instead of sometimes like 20 plus, then you're going to be okay. And you're going to be doing a very fast climb, even with a substantially lower win rate in some cases. I'm not saying this deck has a low win rate, but even like back in Hearthstone, I remember there was this thing where like even with like a 15% win rate difference or something really high like that, effectively you will still see oftentimes faster results for aggros, right? Which is kind of crazy. So it's a great climbing deck. It's very straightforward for the most part. I know a lot of you guys are always asking stuff like, oh, can I swap out, hero? What do I swap out for whatever champion? I would say you really want to be on 3 Jinxes to run this deck. If you don't have the Teemos, you can go ahead and swap them out for Legion Grenadier instead, because for the most part, there's not really other 1-mana cards you're going to want. Anyway, that's going to be it for this. This is the just very, very aggressive burn deck, and I'll go ahead and see you guys next time.